Okay, so my question is, we all heard that the Anunnaki took hominids and manipulated their DNA to create modern humans. Well, first they created a worker, and then they upped the DNA more and more until it became what we have now as modern humans. But when I was listening to this other channel on YouTube called Area 52, they had a video talking about the beings known as the Elohim coming here and manipulating the DNA of the hominids that were here to create modern humans as well. So is there any truth to this? Did the Elohim do this in the same way that the Anunnaki did?
It's the same beings that are being referred to as the Elohim. It's just different terms that are being used to describe different beings. So in the Bible, this is why it's important to get tools that can give you the Hebrew and give you, like, depending on which book you're reading, what language is being translated from. Remember, the Bible is a basically plagiarized version from the Anunnaki tablets. Okay, so they're writing about the same beings, but they're just using different terms. So this is one of the things that in the Bible, when you're reading through it, you're getting different names, like, you know, Elohim, El Shaddai, you know, they're different names, Yahweh, Baal, but these are different names describing the same Anunnaki beings. The term Anunnaki just means the beings that came to Earth or were sent down to Earth in groups of 50. And in the Bible,
the reason why I would believe that the Anunnaki and the Elohim aren't the same beings is because I read or heard that among the Anunnaki there were these beings referred to as the Igigi, and they were workers, and they used their Gigi at first to mine gold. But the Igigi got tired and rebelled because they couldn't manage the work. So that's when they decided to stop making the Igigi do all the work, and they created the first humans to do the work.
You're telling me
what I found it hard to believe that the angelic beings in what was referred to as the heavens had beings like the Igigi among them.
Brother, what you're doing, you're asking me a question, and then you're telling me what you believe based on other information you've heard from other sources. And I'm saying to you,
yes, because I'm just trying to clarify.
Right, and I'm telling you that even when you said the Igigi, they're the Igigi, right? They're called the Igigi, and the term Igigi is referring to those who stayed up, right? They didn't come down. And what you're saying about the beings they created were the Amilu or Lulu Amilu. Those are the ones that they refer to as primitive worker. But what I'm saying to you is that these different names you're using, like Anunnaki, they're different beings referred to by different names. And then the Bible and other books like the Quran, they're talking about the same people. So Enlil and Enki, for example, in the Bible become Baal and Yahweh. But if you don't know that, you're just thinking these are different beings. And when you say angels are a misinterpretation for these same beings. But then you have other beings from different places, other star constellations too, that came to this planet. And they also started to create various different hybrids. Different species of beings came here. In fact, at one stage, they were all like doing it to compete and to show who can create the best beings, and they will parade them and showcase them, right? And this is where in the Bible you have incidences where you have beings with like more than the normal toes, hands, where you start to see some of the beings that got mixed with different like animals that, like you said, you get all these centaurs, you got like you know, they show you certain beings, like even the being that's referred to as the goat of Mendes. They're always showing you these hybrid beings, and some of them were so hideous. That's why in certain parts of the Bible they tell you that you couldn't see them, or you had to communicate them from a veil or behind a bush or something, because they didn't want to be seen. But then in other instances, someone is able to speak to these beings, or these beings are walking and talking in the garden. So I'm saying to you, if you think about the Bible stories have come from the Anunnaki Sumerian stories, then you see how you're talking about the same beings. Like I gave you Enlil and Enki, who are also known as Yahweh and Baal, and they're known as Nun-Namnir and Nudimud. They're known by many, many names, but it's the same Anunnaki beings with different like natures, agreeable and disagreeable ones. You see, so I'm saying we teach Wu-Sabat. We have in fact, we were teaching about the Anunnaki and breaking down this information way, way, way before these new people that are popping up today on YouTube and everywhere talking about Anunnaki. We were the ones that were, other than Zechariah Sitchin at the time, not many people were talking about the Anunnaki apart from Parnababi Anun, who wrote countless books breaking down everything to do with the Anunnaki. So people today are talking about it, but go back and read, you know, the scrolls he put out back in the 60s, 70s and 80s, you see. So yeah, you can now, today, everybody is an expert on talking about the Anunnaki because, you know, other people have picked it up that have just, they're really Johnny just come lately. But you don't have to, you know, people are free to go and listen and to everyone else or anyone else out there. But we know that when we hear the information, we can hear when it's misinformation or, you know, just wrong information. So I'm telling you that the Igigi were the ones that stayed above. They stayed and didn't come down. The Lulu Amilu were the primitive worker, but they created many, many versions before they perfected the being, because they were trying to get a being that could actually use tools and do the work, and so that they can basically mine the gold. But in any case, I'm still trying to follow. What's your question? Because if you say you want to be clear on if the difference between the Elohim and the Anunnaki and the Igigi, which, you know, Billy Carson said the Igigi, and this is where people are also picking that term from, because we did a reaction video one time where we heard him say that, and obviously he's also a Johnny come lately talking about the Anunnaki stories in comparison to, you know, the master teacher teaching about Anunnaki from 50 years ago. So I don't know.
Well,
Does that answer your question?
Because you clarified that the Elohim and the Anunnaki are the same being. So I get the idea now that the early hominids, they had their DNA manipulated by the same being, the Elohim or Anunnaki. I get it.